folks. It's Global Music Match Week 2, and this week we're featuring Shelley Segal, Australian-born pop folk protest singer. Shelley's been compared to Tori Amos and Annie DeFranco. She's got some fantastic songs, and I talked to her about how she went from playing in her dad's klezmer band to releasing an album called An Atheist Album. First of all, I just wanted to ask you, how would you describe your music? So when people ask you what you do, what do you say to them?
Well, I guess I would classify my music as singer-songwriter, under the singer-songwriter umbrella. I think that keeps things really open because I do write in a lot of different, I do draw from a lot of different genres and styles when I write. I guess, I play acoustic guitar, I sing, so most of my songs are started that way, and that's like, the skeleton of everything. So it's very acoustic-driven singer-songwriter.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Well, that's kind of where I live in my stuff. So, and there's it's such a broad range of music that kind of falls within that sort of loose bracket. And so. I just wanted to, let's drill into that a little bit more. So you're, something I read on your bio was that you grew up kind of musically in your dad's klezmer band, and that I read that your dad is actually the president of the East Melbourne Synagogue, and so
that's correct.
Yeah, and so you grew up kind of influenced by klezmer. Do you want to tell us something about how that's influenced your music? Because I think you can hear that in some of the songs. So tell us about that.
Well, that was my musical upbringing, right? It was in my father's wedding band. He had a function band, and it was klezmer. They played traditional Jewish folk music. Mm-hmm. So every weekend I got to spend as a teenager, doing 2-3 gigs with my dad and his band, which was super fun and super cool. He plays klezmer violin, and for the traditional music, they would have like clarinet, piano, accordion, and violin and vocals, and I would like sing back up and play percussion. And then that would be how we would start the weddings, with the traditional set called the Hora, and it would be like a medley of all these different traditional songs. Mm-hmm. And then we would play when the religious people would go home. Then we could have what was called the mixed dancing, and we were allowed to all dance together. And then we would play just like, the usual wedding songs. Start with "I Will Survive," get everyone up on the dance floor, and a lot of pop and rock, and so it was a very broad musical upbringing, and I was singing in all those different styles. But in particular, what I love about the Jewish music is, even though in the horror sets it's quite upbeat, they just have these really haunting melodies and, beautiful sort of harmonic minors, a lot of minor sixes. And I love, a lot of A minor, D minor, everything, like the whole set stays. We lift the key and we lift the tempo, but it's in that minor world. And a lot of my songs, sort of stay in that area. And it's been a big influence on me musically, but also just like that understanding of the importance of music at the weddings, because when you're playing these songs, it's like the happiest days of people's life, and I saw how important music was in that setting, and how songs could be like a soundtrack to people's lives. And I guess that really stayed with me.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I love klezmer. I love the sound of it, and I love the way you get this kind of a lot in folk music. I feel like the minor key is kind of used. More recently, when you tell people it's like minor is the sad music, but minor in kind of folk traditions, it can do everything, and I think that's
Yes.
particularly there in klezmer. It's like you get those kind of really joyful minor key songs and minor harmonic kind of sounds,
Yes,
and yeah,
absolutely. And still with that high energy.
fantastic. So you grew up in playing in your dad's klezmer band, and then your first album was called an atheist album. So
Yes.
I just want to, just for people that have just heard that, I just want to kind of like, let's talk about, if you're happy to talk about it, let's talk about that trajectory. And I think it's fair to say that an atheist album has it's very kind of overt with a very much a humanist perspective, a secular perspective, and some stuff which is quite, taking issue with certain things in perspectives in certain religions, possibly fair to say. I want to dig into that, and tell us something about how you got from A to B, and
Absolutely. So I guess, yeah, that influence carried on, even if it's in the sense of what it made me move away from. Because so I was, yeah, brought up in the Jewish tradition, obviously. And my father, as you mentioned, is the president of the synagogue. And so, that community and that religion and my faith was a really big part of my life. And especially my musical life, we were playing at the weddings and the functions. And then every week I would go with my father and his musical partner to play at Jewish aged care facilities. And we would play that music. And so it was a big part of my life, and it was quite joyful. But as I got older and I started to challenge some of the beliefs and I guess the foundational parts of my worldview, I found the narrative that I had been given wanting, and in a lot of ways quite oppressive to different groups. And just I challenged my beliefs, and I ended up coming out of that, leaving my faith behind and my tradition, and taking issue with things that, I hadn't maybe seen as harmful as a younger person. And so it was such a significant experience to completely change the way that I saw the world in this world where that was so, so important to me, and like so much a part of everything that I was doing personally and musically. And so I wanted to talk about it. And my writing is the way that I talk about what I'm going through. And so that's when I decided to make a whole album on the topic. And I talked about the issues that I had with my tradition, with the treatment of women, with focus on certain values. And while there is a lot that I'm grateful for in the community I was raised with, it was something that I had to leave. And I say my father stays. We have great conversations these days, and he stayed within the community. He tries to make things better from within, which I really admire and respect. But for me, I had to leave. And while I still have a great relationship with most of the people I grew up with, it became something that I wanted to challenge through my music. And I've been very grateful to have the opportunity to, to sort of share my new worldview musically with people around the world, and sing about these topics and talk about these issues at different conferences. And I think it's been cool as well to get to share that message through music, because I think a lot of the ideas that maybe people would find they don't want to engage with, they might find too challenging if we were just having a conversation or a discussion or a lecture, as opposed to through music, where I think there's an openness that people have when they're listening to music that they may not afford you otherwise.
I think that's absolutely true. I think it can be a fantastic vehicle to take on some stuff that, people don't necessarily want to take on. That's great. And it's such a great thing that you have taken that into a kind of musical kind of activism and kind of raising awareness of some of the issues you're talking about, and that people, that's obviously resonated with people a lot. And
Yeah.
you've kind of I was just kind of reading earlier, you kind of created music that supports kind of grassroots activism and human rights organizations, and kind of tell us about how you kind of see the relationship between music and protest and having a voice, because I think it's, personally, I'm the way to get on your own soapbox there, but I just think music
Please.
is like, that's what it's for, right? It's to disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed, as Woody Guthrie said, right? So
Yes.
tell us about that,
Sure. Well, I mean, that's something I'm so proud of being able to do, is lend my voice to the issues and communities that, that wanted and needed, and that I'm able to. It's something I'm really grateful for through this music that I created, my atheist themed music. I've been able to meet a lot of different communities that are doing fantastic work, and from the smallest way of people using my music in their programming and their on their podcasts and shows and stuff like that, or having the music as a way for people to start a dialogue and a conversation, to making music like specifically, commissioned music for different organizations. So there's a great organization called Recovering from Religion, and they started in the US, and they're a support group for people who have grown up in extreme religious communities, and particularly in the US. I'm sure it's like this all around the world, but there are people that are grow up in these communities that are limited in the media that they can consume, in the relationships that they have with people outside of their communities, and for whatever reason they've challenged where they've grown up and how they've grown up, and they're wanting to leave and participate in normal in wider society, in mainstream society. And a lot of the time they struggle and they're unable to, because for so many different reasons they've never been taught how. And so it's an amazing community that they have all over the US, support groups where people can go and learn how to function in the wider society and build a support network, because before they've never had one. They've often never had an education outside of their own community. They don't know how to find employment. Or even, I remember meeting a couple. I did a Recovering from Religion gig. I did a gig for one of the communities in Los Angeles, and I met one couple who had never been allowed to listen to music before, to mainstream music. And this woman in her 40s was telling me, as she's branching out and meeting new people, people said to her, "Oh, you should listen to the Beatles." And it was her first time listening to the Beatles a couple of years ago. And she said, "Everyone said I should listen to this song, Imagine." And it was beautiful. It was so amazing. So that was an incredible experience, performing for that group and being able to speak so precisely to, this unique shared experience that we had. Obviously mine was not that extreme, but it was an amazing experience. And I'll play songs, and then I invite people in the community, in the group, to get up and share their own experiences, to take the mic and tell stories, maybe that the song, might have set off in their memories, and people sharing stories and experiences. And it's just a very powerful and therapeutic experience. So I love working with that community. I also created the hotline music. So they have I used to work, they have a hotline, 24-hour hotline globally, where people who are struggling with these issues can call. And really a lot of people that are isolated and don't have any support system at all, dealing with these really intense issues. And so it's an amazing hotline. And so, yeah, I used to volunteer and take calls. So I really know firsthand what people are going through. And then, like, me and my husband made the hold music for them. There's another organization in the UK that I love working for called One Law for All, who are also work closely with the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain. And so they're an amazing community. They're just trying to be visible. It is so complicated for them. They're trying to be visible and say to other people in their community that want to leave, there's a space for you, there's a world for you, there's somewhere that you can land safely. But it's also hard for them because I know there's a lot of Islamophobia, and it's a contentious issue. And so they find their very existence, just by saying we're here, we're ex-Muslims, we're a support group for each other, and we're fighting for the rights of Muslims in the UK. They cop it from both sides. They cop it from their own community, saying, no, you can't do this. This is not okay. And then they cop it from the wider society as well, saying you can't speak against, you can't speak out against Islam because we're trying to protect Muslim people. So it's it's a very, very difficult place to be in and place to exist. And so it's been so amazing to be able to create music and, like you said, provide a voice to these communities. And one more thing, like for me personally, growing up in the Jewish tradition, the Orthodox communities, they don't allow women to sing unaccompanied, which is something that, I had to deal with in my own musical journey. Not within my family, we weren't that observant, but, there'd be times at the weddings or something where we thought everybody, all the most religious people would have left, and someone would come running, and, I have to get off stage. I can't be singing lead. I can't be singing unaccompanied. And it's something that was, in my synagogue as well, where women are not allowed to lead the service. So I wouldn't be allowed to participate in the same way as my brother and my father. And so, that was very confronting and upsetting to me. And it's hard because you're engaging in this tradition that you love and in this musical tradition that you love, but you can't participate fully. So it's been very meaningful to me to be able to incorporate these musical elements from my tradition and my history and my culture, and to use them however I want for my own purposes, even if that is in challenging the tradition itself.
Wonderful. That's really great. It's such a great kind of transformation, and a lovely thing to see that that journey that you've gone on to, to kind of take that music and make it your own and do something new with it. I mean, we have a little bit of a kind of about the same time that you put out an atheist album, I had an album called The No Testament, which which also has, a bit of a humanist hymn book kind of theme to it. It's maybe not quite as, I don't know how to say it. I mean, I feel like you're mine's kind of a bit more.
Maybe you could say maybe it's not as on the nose.
On the nose, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, maybe it's not quite as on the nose, but it is in there. There's songs. Yeah. There's a song called "The One," which is kind of about, this kind of. I think of it as like romantic fundamentalism. Like when you find that one person that you have to kind of like be with them for your whole life, and the shame of divorce and all that kind of stuff. It's a narrative, a first person narrative, but it's kind of about that. And that whole album, I used a few hymn tunes and then turned them back into secular songs as part of the idea of the album. So I feel like we've got some kindred spirits a little bit there. So
I thought I heard some of those themes in the music, but I'm like, I always wonder if I'm just projecting just that myself. Oh, that's great.
No, I think so, because I grew up in my parents are Christians, and I grew up within that world and that worldview, and similarly had a kind of going away from it. But I mean, for me, I just wanted to preserve what I thought was great about it, which is coming together, singing and community. And there's a lot of, I don't know, it's nice to kind of take what you find useful, and then that's evolution. I feel like that's kind of evolution. Take what you find useful and then move on. Okay, so what have you been doing in lockdown, Shelley, and how have you kind of adapted to that? I'm asking everybody this. Everybody's probably saying, but like, tell us.
No, I mean, well, that's
reality.
That's what we're doing. That's life. That's what we're doing day to day now. So I actually had to take like a bit of time out, for the first few months. I was doing this really cool regular live stream with folks just before lockdown came in, where I was just doing live stream songwriting on YouTube, and people could join in and write songs with me, and that was an amazing experience. And then working on new music. And then when lockdown started, I think I just needed to take a bit of a break. I didn't feel up for doing the live streams. I didn't, feel that open. I felt like this big change had come to all of us. And I even felt like, this pressure that there was so much that needed to be said about everything that's going on in the world right now. And I think, you know, as folk musicians, as protest, you know, music creators, I feel like there was so much to say and I didn't have the words at that time to say it. And it was like, you know, it made me withdraw a little bit. But I am glad that I took that break. And I think that it's, you know, sometimes you just need time for everything to consolidate before before it can come out again. And then you can express it in this form. So I'm excited for the music that I'm making again now. And I've got a single dropping at the end of this month, a new single. And yeah, it's
what's it called? Are you revealing that yet? Or
it's called Just Like My Mother. But yeah, it's I am excited because, you know, when I make a new project, I go in the studio and I work with local musicians, and I do a full production for my projects. But being in lockdown, I'm adjusting, and I'm working with my husband, who I tour with regularly, and we're just gonna make like purely acoustic. Well, I mean, it's all acoustic, but like home produced, really stripped back music, which is something that we can reproduce live. And I'm excited about that. And it's cool to see like how this change of circumstance is going to change the music that I put out. And I'm excited to see how people respond to that, and to see us experimenting with it being just us in the studio, which is really cool. I've started my, my live streaming again. So I do that every second Saturday. And then I'm also doing live stream concerts. So this Saturday, on the 12th, if you're, depending on the time zone, you're in the 12th or the 13th of September, I will be performing an hour live stream concert from my home. And that's at 6:30 p.m. PDT, just to give one time zone reference. I think it's really early for you. I think it's like 2 a.m. for you, Sam.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We'll either be, really, that's either really late or really early, depending on what you're looking at. Yeah.
Yeah.
But is it going to be available to watch afterwards? I can put up a link.
It's not. It's just going to be, So just the one time. Keep it special. Yeah. But I'll be doing more, and I might try a different time zone as well, just for folks over in Europe. And but in the meantime, what I've been doing, since I've not been, the first few months, I've been really working on doing a lot of ghostwriting and session work, which has been really cool to do from home, working for other artists. And it's been great.
Fantastic. Well, I hope you continue to go from strength to strength, Shelley, and thanks for joining us all the way from LA. And really good to chat to you. Thanks for making great music. I'm going to be looking forward to sharing your songs with my followers this week. And thanks for chatting to us.
Sam.
Shelley Segal, people.